Well, welcome to another Relate Well Live with Dr. Rick Marks. I hope you have had a wonderful day. And as we round out this day, it's actually a Monday. I hope that you've had a good day. I hope it's been a relaxing day. We've had some rain here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live. And my hope and prayer for you is that you will have a wonderful evening. Now, let's jump right into it. Our topic today has to do with the fact that in marriage, 69, look at this, 68 to 69% of problems, 68% of problems in a marriage are unsolvable. Did you know that? Did you know that most problems in a marriage have no solutions between the couple? We're going to talk about that. That's based on the research by Dr. John Gottman, who is probably the leading researcher on relationships today, particularly marriage. And the research shows that 68% of problems in a marriage do not have a solution. 68% of problems in a marriage do not have a solution. They're unsolvable. His term for those are that they're perpetual problems. That's what he calls them. They're perpetual problems. They're going to be there throughout the marriage. And Gottman points out there's three things to a satisfying relationship. Number one is that it depends on what those unsolvable problems are. Okay, one of the unsolvable problems in my marriage, there is no solution to this, is dog. D-O-G. Yes, dog. I want one really, really bad. She does not want one really, really bad. Our perspectives of dogs are very different. Our attitudes towards dogs are very different. And whether we have a dog or not is a choice, but we will never agree on the issue of dog. It's a perpetual issue. It's an unsolvable problem. You see, we'll talk more about what are different kinds of unsolvable problems. But the key to satisfying relationship, according to Gottman, was one, it depends on what the unsolvable problems actually are. Number two, the second thing is, how do you handle as a couple these unsolvable problems? Do you end up in what he calls gridlock? Do you end up as two people battling each other, trying to win, trying to assert your perspective over the others? We end up in a power struggle, who's right, who's wrong, when actually they're just differences in perspective, difference in opinions, things like that. And so it's how you manage these problems, how you manage these unsolved problems that matters. And here's the third thing. Can you both value the marriage enough that you're willing to live with unsolvable problems? Are you both willing to live with these unsolvable problems? You know, Gottman says this. Here's a quote by him. He says, "You don't have to resolve your major marital conflicts for your marriage to thrive." Now, I've been married 37 years, and those who follow me know the history of my wife and I. Her name is Luella. That we both grew up in broken homes with abuse, addictions, those kind of things. And that we met 37 years, we married 37 years ago and married. We were friends, but neither of us really knew what healthy marriage looked like. We never saw it. And because we never saw healthy marriages and healthy relationships, we didn't know how to love well, and we didn't know how to relate well. And that's just the reality. We did not know how to relate well. And so we had to come to realization that some of the issues in our relationship, there aren't solutions for. There just aren't solutions for. So what are examples of these perpetual problems, these unsolvable problems? One, one of the early ones in my marriage was I like to be on time. She didn't mind being late. My attitude was, if we're supposed to be somewhere at 1 o'clock, we're there at 12:45, always 15 minutes early. Picked that up in my childhood growing up, but really picked it up in the military. You see, we were just different, and we had differences of opinion around that. Okay. It's unsolvable. Other types of unsolvable problems are issues of finances. Maybe one's more of a spender, one's more of a saver, and you'll always be that way. How about on socialness and your ability to socially connect? One person's more extroverted, another person's more introverted. One person needs to be around people. One person doesn't need to be around people. Those are differences. How about cleanliness and organization? One of the subtle problems in my marriage is I don't like making beds, and I don't mind if my bed's not made. My wife wants them made every morning. She likes organization. She likes structure, likes things right angled. I'm not so much that way. You can tell by my bookshelf behind me, right? It looks nice to me. I know where things are. And those are just differences. Other types of perpetual or unsolved problems have to do with time together versus time apart. One person is looking for more time together. They want more time together. They're looking for more connection time. One person is satisfied with the amount of connection time and wants more independence. All right. Another form of perpetual problem is, are you ready? Extended family, in-laws, those kinds of things. All right. Do we spend time with my family or your family? Do we spend these holidays here or these holidays there? You see, those are another issues, another type of unsolvable problem. How about parenting? One person wants to be a little more permissive and grace oriented. The other wants to be a little more truth and authoritarian. In my marriage, Luella tended to be more the authoritarian. I tended to be more the grace one. All right. We were different and we disagreed on some things when it came to parenting the kids. Some of the things were just unsolvable. All right. Relationship style. All right. You're seeing a lot of this today because of cultural differences today in what marriage is defined to be. In other words, I know of a case where he married and he wanted a consensual monogamous relationship. We're getting married to be one, just you and me. But in her mind, actually, I'm marrying you, but I want a non-monogamous relationship. I want to be able to have an open marriage. You're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff show up today, where one person wants to get married, but they want an open marriage. The other person says, no, I don't want an open marriage. And they're not going to agree on that. All right. In my mind, they probably shouldn't marry then. For that one, for sure. All right. Differences in family. One person wants a baby, and how many babies? This person may not want children, or maybe you want two, they want 7 or 10. Differences. All right. And a real issue, one form of unsolvable problem also has to do with faith backgrounds. Maybe someone is a Catholic background marrying a Protestant, or someone who may be into the metaphysical spiritual side, marrying someone who's Jewish and or Christian or evangelical. You see, those are going to be unsolvable problems because religion is something people hold near and dear to their hearts, and they tend to hold to those faith. And sometimes those faith backgrounds disagree. And so, again, it's like you're going to have problems. Again, 68% of problems in marriages are unsolvable. The question is, how do you handle those? And are you willing to live with these unsolvable problems? You see? And so those are some things to think about. Now, I said earlier, one of the unsolved problems in my marriage was the issue of dog. All right. And I have a perspective of dog, but Luella had one. And we used to argue about that issue of dog. To this day, as I'm talking to you, we still disagree about dogs. I think they're wonderful. She does not. I want one real bad. She does not. We have never been able to agree and never will agree on the issue of dog. We had to find a way to live in our marriage around that issue. And here's what research shows, particularly Gottman's research. Now, he called them masterful couples who are at the highest level of maturity. What these couples do around these unsolvable problems is what these couples do, masterful couples, is they don't let unsolvable problems destroy what we call us, destroy the usness. Us is the essence of the relationship itself. You see, we say in our world that it takes two to make an us and one to kill it. Right? It takes humility to have an us. Pride will kill an us off in a moment. But when us wins, you both win. Us lose, you both lose. And in masterful couples, value their usness over winning an argument over something that's unwinnable. You're just different. It's okay. Agree to disagree and move on and just negotiate around the unsolvable problems. But when you start to argue around unsolvable problems or having conflict, what are some of the signs that an unsolvable problem is actually affecting your relationship? According to Dr. Gottman, listen to these. Here's 9 signs that unsolvable problems are now affecting your sense of usness in your marriage. Number 1, he points out that you start to feel rejected by your partner. When there's an unsolved problem that's now in that issue is causing conflict and power struggles between you, you're fighting to see who's going to be right and who's going to be wrong. You're seeking to win. You're seeking to get your point across at the expense of their point. I agree and I disagree. You start to feel rejected by your partner. You feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're not lovable. You feel like that you don't matter. What matters is what they think and how they see it. So you start to feel rejected. You don't feel that you have a value to them anymore. The second thing he points out is you keep talking over and over, months and months, days and days. You keep talking about this unsolvable problem issue, but you actually make no headway. You can talk about an unsolvable problem for weeks and months and years and never solve it. One of the ongoing things in my marriage for many years, I always pick on it, but it's actually true, was the issue of dog. We talked about dogs off and on for years. And I'll never forget, it was 2012. I had moved to Kansas for a year to start the Healthy Marriage and Fatherhood Initiatives for the state of Kansas for a year. And when I came back home to Florida, I was living there by myself and would come home every 2 months. And when I came back home, having been by myself for 2 years, or for that year in Kansas, I made a decision. I'm getting a dog when I go back home. And I told my wife, I'm going to do this. And it's going to happen on this month. You've got 3 months to prepare yourself emotionally for it, but I'm getting a dog. And the closer we got to that date, the more the tension ramped up. We talked about dogs off and on for years. You see, we never made headway. We never made headway with that issue of dog. To this day, like I said earlier, we still disagree. Now, you may be wondering, well, did you get a dog? The answer is actually no. And here's why. I finally sat down and asked her, help me understand your perspective of dog. And so I started to listen to her perspective of dog and what it was like for her. And she began to tell me what it was like growing up in an alcoholic abusive home, where basically by 8th grade, she was put in a parental role. She was doing the cooking, the cleaning, all of that for her parents and her younger siblings. And they had these dogs that nobody took care of. And as I listened to her perspective, I went, oh my goodness, no wonder you don't like dogs. It makes sense to me now. And when I was able to put her perspective together with mine, that created understanding. And in that understanding of why she didn't like dog and putting that together with mine and reality, at that time, we were, I was gone about 42 weeks out of the year, doing a lot of traveling at that time. I just came back. My traveling was still up. And I realized it would be very disrespectful of me to ask the woman that I love to take care of a dog when I'm not home much with it. So I decided not to get the dog way back when, because of the way things were, and I didn't want to be disrespectful to her. Another sign that it's becoming destructive. You keep talking about the issue, but you never make a headway. The third thing he says is that the sign that an unsolved problem is actually affecting your marriage is you become entrenched in your position and you're unwilling to budge and you're inflexible. You start building a fortress around your view, and they start building one around theirs. You become entrenched in what you want. You're entrenched in your perspective. You're not willing to, there's no flexibility. You're not willing to listen to their perspective. You're not willing to move. You're not willing to consider possibilities. You're not willing to negotiate to find a solution. That's when you know you have an unsolvable problem. Next, when you discuss the subject, listen, another sign that it's controlling you is that when you discuss that subject that's unsolvable, you end up feeling more frustrated, more hurt over time. More frustrated, more hurt, more unheard, more invalidated, more that you're not important, that your heart, what your heart thinks and feels doesn't matter. Another sign that it's becoming a problem is over time, this unsolvable problem that you don't know is unsolvable at that point, when you have conversations around it, those conversations lack humor, amusement, and affection. They become so serious and personal that you can't do anything silly around it or fun around it, can't banter about it, because somebody is taking it very, very seriously. Another sign is you don't accept your partner's influence. What Gottman means by that is accepting influence is you don't allow their needs or perspective to influence your position on the issue. Gottman talks about being able to influence others or being influenced by. Healthy marriages, his research shows that the partners influence each other. In other words, I allow Luell to influence me. How? Well, she influences my perspective sometimes. I allow her to influence my thoughts about things. I allow her to influence whether I try out some new weird food that she likes, right? Some things in those areas I won't be influenced by. Same time, though, Luell used to write off my perspective about things around faith, things around relationships. And over time, she started to hear me out. She allowed me to influence her so she could change and be flexible, see things in a new perspective. You see, healthy relationships, the partners allow the other ones to influence them. When you're no longer willing to allow your partner to influence you, you see, you're not willing to accept their influence. You're not willing to listen to their perspective and consider the possibility they just might be right, or they have an accurate perspective. Another sign that is indicating the unsolved problem is becoming really bad for you is you start to vilify each other. You put each other down. You make it clear that there's something wrong with you. You start to attack your partner's integrity, their identity. You start to demean them. You see them now as an enemy rather than a partner in life. They're the enemy. You start to vilify them, and your thoughts and communications indicates that you're vilifying them. You show contempt for them. The next one is it has to do with this vilification makes you more rooted than in your position. Because you're vilifying them, you're seeing them as the enemy. You're seeing them as someone who's unworkable and who's inflexible, et cetera, et cetera. Then what happens is you begin to become polarizing. You then get so staunch in your perspective, things become pretty black and white between you two. Black, white, yin, yang, Jefferson, Regal, whatever you want to think of it, it becomes that polarizing. You become that polarizing. Why? Because I'm right and you are wrong. And that's what vilification does. That's what demeaning a partner is, showing contempt for your partner. And the last thing he says, eventually, you'll disengage from each other emotionally. You begin to disengage emotionally. You're no longer emotionally connecting to each other. There's that deep space that you can feel. We call that you have lost the usness. Or in that old song, you've lost that love and feeling by the Righteous Brothers. All you feel now is cold, distance, angst, tension, anger, all of that. All because you want to win an argument. All because you want to be right. And Relate Well, we talk about having a fight-free marriage. And to have a fight-free marriage, we believe strongly you got to live by 4 principles of life. Now, these 4 principles we call the 4 protectors of an us. But these 4 principles, I use the equation H-REG, HREG, all right? It's a formula, if you will. Humility is the H. If you're going to solve problems and find ways to solve problems and to accept that you have an unsolved problem, but you want to protect the relationship, you're going to have to move to humility. When you fight to win your view, to prove your partner wrong, or that when you believe that what you think and feel is more right than them, your perspective, your thoughts, your culture, you see, what are these unsolved problems? There are differences in opinion, differences in belief systems, differences in faith, differences in culture. When you let those things override your sense of usness, that's really pride. What you're saying is, I'd rather be right than have the relationship. That's fine. Go do that. Sadly, that's a lot of Western culture today. It's my experience, and I think I'm right, but it's my experience that we Westerners don't value relation. We actually value winning arguments. We'd rather be right than have a relationship. Masterful couples have learned the higher way of living life. The greater value is having the relationship and agree to disagree. Because I would rather agree to disagree and have us than me win an argument and lose us. Folks, people will throw relationships away every single day in this world. They're doing it in the West. They'll throw relationships away just to win an argument, just to be right. I find that deeply disturbing. I grew up in a home where that happened. It was about winning. It was about power. It was about control. It was about whose perspective was right, whose was wrong. And I've come to realize I'd rather have us, and let's agree to disagree and move on. You see, I don't want to be disengaged emotionally. I want a healthy, strong, connected relationship. So humility is the first thing you got to do. Because in humility, you're basically teachable. You're willing to hear their perspective. In humility, I'm willing to say, you know what? I don't have all the answers, and I know what I think, but I want to know how you think. What's your perspective? Humility allows you to be teachable. Humility allows you to have compassion. Humility allows you to do the other 3 of the 4 protectors, which is R, respect. You see, pride, you'll become disrespectful. In humility, you'll always be respectful. Respect, what is respect? Respect is honoring and valuing another person. I can honor and value your cultural differences. I can honor and value what your faith informs you. I can honor and value the way that you grew up and the things that you were taught. I can honor and value your thoughts and feelings. To push and try and control someone and force your thoughts and feelings over another person is actually very disrespectful. I learned one thing about love. Love never controls another person. It doesn't do that. To control another person is unloving. To try and force your views over another is very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. You see, respect is another way that if you choose to live a life of respect, then I can hear your perspective. I can hear your view of this thing that is probably unsolvable. And I can honor how you think and feel. Just don't ask me if I agree with how you think and feel, but I can honor it. You see, when you disrespect another person's thoughts and feelings, in a sense, you're actually dishonoring them as an individual. All right. So humility is essential. Respect is essential. E is empathy. Empathy. Empathy is really about being able to feel what a person feels, experiencing what they experience. I like to say this way. Empathy is when I can understand the world through your perspective and, here's a key, care how it is for you. I can care how it is for you. Just because I care that you think and feel this way doesn't mean I necessarily agree with you. I've always said the worst message you send to any relationship, and I believe this wholeheartedly, the worst message you send to any relationship is the message of I don't care. Because once you send that message enough over time, and your partner figures out that you really don't care, they'll probably walk out of your life. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Why would you want to stay in a relationship with someone who keeps informing you based on their actions and their behavior? They don't care about you. They don't care about your thoughts. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your perspectives. They don't care about your experiences. You never send the message, I don't care. You can't send the message, I don't necessarily agree, but I do care about how things are for you. You hear the difference? Care always keeps the relationship door open. It says, I value our relationship. I want the relationship. I care about how things are for you. Agreement can kill a relationship off if you force it over someone. And so if you want to solve perpetual problems, or at least find solutions or navigate around them, you got to have humility. You got to have respect. You got to have empathy. Never send the message, I don't care. And then the fourth principle to live by is goodwill. Goodwill. Now, what is goodwill? Goodwill is benevolence towards another person. Goodwill means that whatever I do, I'm not seeking to hurt you, to harm you, to put you down, to invalidate you, to negate you. Whenever you do anything that seeks to hurt, harm, invalidate, negate another person, that is ill will. That's ill will. And if you want to treat people with ill will, feel free. I won't argue about it with you. However, don't complain when something happens negative because of it. It's the old idea that if you sow discord, you will reap discord. If you sow anger, you reap anger. If you sow destruction, you reap destruction. In the personal development field, it's also known as the law of attraction. Angry people attract anger. Fear-based people attract fear. Uncaring people attract uncaring. It's not rocket science. You create it yourself because of how you are as a way of being. And so there is no goodwill in invalidating a person's thoughts or feelings by putting them down, by asserting your worldview over their worldview. There's no goodwill in that. Plus, it's disrespectful. Also sends a message you don't care. Why? Because you're prideful. Humility wouldn't go there. See, humility opens us up to respect and empathy and goodwill. Humility, in that empathy, I can move to compassion and care how things are for you. In humility, I'm actually teachable. That means you can teach me something. Remember, one of the things that Gottman points out is around these unsolved problems, we don't allow our partners to influence us. But in healthy, mature marriages, there's influence both ways. Each partner is allowing the other to influence them. Llewellyn has influenced me in a lot of different ways. I've influenced her over the years in different ways. You see, but when you're in humility, it's not all about you, and you're teachable, and you can consider your partner's perspective and their view on things. It's a very powerful way to live life by the four protectors of us: humility, respect, empathy, and goodwill. And they also become great principles on how to deal with unsolvable problems. These perpetual problems you'll never have a solution around. They're just different. Now, what usually happens is when we are in dealing with these unsolved problems, you end up in what is called gridlock. All right? We talk about gridlock in Relate Well in the chapter 7 around problem solving. What is gridlock? This is when there's a problem, and it's probably an unsolvable one. You see, and you're in gridlock. Now, what is gridlock? Gridlock is when basically emotions are at stake, egos are at stake, and basically you're going to win. You guys are battling it out. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm not listening to you. And in gridlock issues, egos are at risk. Emotions are quick to be triggered, and emotions can be high. You have to get out of gridlock. You have to unhinge the gridlock. Because when you're gridlocked, you both are in fortresses. You're lobbing cannonballs at each other. All right. You can see I got a cannonball right back there on my back shelf. You're lobbing cannonballs at each other. Why? Because I'm going to win. I'm right. You're wrong. You're going to listen to me. I'm not going to listen to you. And gridlock destroys us. Gridlock is pure pride. I want to win. There is no consideration of us in gridlock. It is all about me, my views, my perspective, and I will not listen to yours. Gridlock long-term destroys your partner's value. It destroys your sense of worth, because what you're really sending a message is you have no value, you have no worth. Who do you think you are? You end up invalidating each other. When one partner says something, the other one hears it as negative when it was never meant to be negative, but you hear it as negative. It's called negative interpretations. So now you begin to interpret things they do as negatively, and that gridlock just destroys every aspect of the positive things in a relationship. So you have to get out of gridlock. Well, the first thing you do to get out of gridlock is you got to really identify what is the core issue. What is it you're really arguing about? Now, in Relate Well, we believe that most issues, the majority of them, are linked to an unmet relational need. An unmet relational need. So if you want to stop fighting, you want to be fight-free, you're going to have to quit arguing with each other and actually listen for the core issue. Get out of gridlock. Well, first thing is, what's the core issue here? We believe the core issue is related to 10 relational needs. And here, we put them in the acronym of CARES. C, A to the fifth power, R-E, S squared. What are the 10 relational needs? Comfort, attention, acceptance, affection, approval, appreciation. R is respect. E is encouragement. And the two S's are security and support. All humans have those 10 relational needs hardwired into the emotional brain. They're with you at birth, and they'll be with you to the day you die, and they must be met and will be met. Just like food, air, water, shelter. The thing about relational needs are, though, they're the only human needs that we have that require another person. These are the only needs we have: the need for bonding, the need for attachment, the need for connection, the need for intimacy, the need for love. These needs must be given to you. It's the only needs that humans have that require another person. So you have to get to the core issue. Maybe it isn't about dog. Maybe it's about wanting to feel accepted. Maybe it's about being respected. Maybe it's feeling supported, that you would believe in me in having a dog. You gotta trace the issue to its core meaning for both of you. Once you can get down to that core issue, then you have the conversation at that core issue. All right. Then once you identify the core issue, you begin to explore how that core issue affects both of you. What does it mean to you? What's the meaning to your partner? What is it? All right. And how do these differences affect the relationship? How do these two differences, these core meanings and the differences, how do they affect you? You see? How do they affect you? How do they affect me? How's it affecting us? So that's the second thing you want to do. The third thing is, once you do that, by the way, in order to do that well, you need really good communication and listening skills. This is one of the things we do in Relate Well. We actually teach a structured research-based skills that allow you to listen to each other's perspective at the deeper level and have understanding and compassion around it. All right. And it doesn't force agreement, but it does bring you to a place to listen to each other's perspectives at that core issue, to seek understanding of the issue. And once I have understanding of the issue, then possibly we can start a dialogue about what do we need to do with these differences. So once you understand the difference, number 3, you begin to look at, well, how are these differences affecting us? And is there a way to resolve these differences? Now, in chapter 7 of Relate Well, we actually have what we call heartful collaboration. The highest form of problem solving is not compromise. It's actually collaboration. We use the Thomas Kilmann model on problem solving. It's used a lot in the business world. Collaboration is the highest form of problem solving. It means it's this high engagement. You both are working together, the team, but you're both speaking up for yourselves as well. So you speak up, both of you, at the highest level, but you also collaborate at the highest level. You cooperate. Why? Because we want to win-win. For who? Not for me, not for Luella, for us. And here's what I've learned. Sometimes agreeing to disagree is the win-win. And it's okay. It's actually okay. You see? And so you've got to be able to deal with conflict. Now, if you learn to master the skills that keep you out of gridlock, to talk about with each other about these issues, do you understand that from a relational standpoint, you'll always have playfulness? You'll always be able to solve problems in a way that keeps playfulness and fun and care and empathy present on a regular basis. It is a powerful way to live life so that you can value relationship and value differences in perspectives, beliefs, faith, whatever, and still have an us. You know, we say in Relate Well, we have it's like a formula, if you will, a formula for a happy marriage. And here it is. Build us, plus sustain us, even in conflict. Get it? Build us, plus sustain us, even in conflict, equals happy marriage. In Relate Well, we teach you how to build an us. Plus, we teach you how to sustain an us, even in conflict, particularly around unsolvable problems. And if you learn how to build an us and sustain the us, even in conflict, that will equal a happy marriage. Or we like to say, a fight-free marriage. That's right, fight-free. My wife and I have different disagreements. We're still human. All humans will have differences. But you know what we don't do at 37 years of marriage? We don't fight. We just don't fight. Why would we want to fight? If we fight, I don't just hurt her, I hurt me. More importantly, I hurt us. And I don't want to hurt us. I love it when us is in the house, and I hate it when it's not. And everything that I do, moment by moment by moment, gives to us or it gives to me. If you put your partner down, you insult them, you criticize them, you're not building an us. You're just pushing your agenda over theirs. You see, criticism is one of the predictors of divorce. It's called Dr. Gottman calls them the 4 horsemen. The other 3 are defensiveness, stonewalling, well, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore, and showing contempt for your partner. Those 4 things: criticism, defensiveness, showing contempt, and stonewalling predict divorce 93%. What if you chose to live life out of what we call the 4 protectors of an us? HREG: humility, respect, empathy, and goodwill. You'll make sure the 4 horsemen never show up, guaranteed. But more importantly, You'll be able to identify unsolvable problems, and you will value each other's perspective around those unsolvable problems. But you'll also make a decision to agree to disagree or just navigate around that unsolved problem because you'd rather have the love and the friendship and the intimacy than to win an argument. It's a much easier and a much better place to live that way. And that's how I get to live today. Now, do I do it perfectly? No, not at all. Do I do it maturely? I would tell you yes. I worked hard to become that person. My wife says I am, so I'll just take her word for it. She would know better than anybody, right? But it's a much sweeter way to live life when you stay out of gridlock. You just accept this is just the differences. It's an unsolvable problem, but I would rather have us than a dog. It's Dr. Rick. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.